Nebraska Extension and UNL's Department of Agronomy and Horticulture will hold a two-day event in January focused heavily on corn and soybean production research. The Nebraska Crop Management Conference is new for 2017 and in Kearney on the 19th and 20th. Speakers include Extension personnel and outside experts, including Purdue Extension's Bob Nielsen. Nebraska Extension educator Nathan Mueller will discuss emerging and established ag technologies at the conference. We talked with Nathan earlier this week about that subject.
The topic's going to be, utilizing your yield maps, and there's some additional things you're going to want to do with that. So, how do you make sure that you have good data, good quality data, and then how do you utilize that information to drive management decisions?
Tell me how much that has changed, just that overall aspect of precision ag over the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, things are changing really rapidly in terms of ag technology, the use of UAVs, multi-hybrid planning, grain bin technology, the list goes on. So, but we're adding all these new things, but there's still some fundamental things that we've always had. We've had yield monitors for probably 2 decades. And so, now we're looking at, you calibrate your yield monitor, you get these yield maps, and the next thing is what do you do with them? And so it's really first important, great, you calibrated your yield monitor. I think most growers are used to doing that. The next step is cleaning the yield data. Just because it's calibrated doesn't mean that there's not bad data points yet in there. And if you're going to use that yield map to make management decisions, let's say nitrogen rate, you want to make sure that you're getting the actual yield for this part of the field. And if you have some high or low spots, it might bring it down. So it's really important, and there's some software that we have available to us that both your ag advisor, your crop advisor, or yourself can use to clean up that data after the fact, after the harvest is over.
If you don't clean it up, how off could it be?
Yeah, you could easily probably be 5-10 bushels off on corn, 3 to 4 or 5 bushels off for the field average for soybeans just by cleaning yield data versus not. The other thing is adjusting for moisture, especially in soybeans. There's less of a problem this year with higher moisture soybeans, but if you have 8% moisture beans in some part of the field and 13% in the other, it's showing a yield difference. It doesn't, most of the software doesn't add that moisture back up. But if you're wanting to look at spatial pattern, not just moisture pattern, you really need to add that waterway back. And this yield editor that was created by USDA ARS can do that. So it's not only cleaning data, but you can actually improve some of the data quality by standardizing moisture.
I think if we were talking a few years ago, you would look at drones and they'd be a lot more popular with the margins that producers experience then. Where we are now in the current financial environment, are there still precision ag technologies that you think are winners and can add value to the farm?
Yeah, I think that's why I wanted to focus on this topic of utilizing your yield data. You already have it. You've already paid for it, right? And you already get a printed map, but digital data is really important because a paper copy, you can learn something from that, but doing some additional data analysis with your yield data on a computer is really important. So you can look at yield by hybrid, you can look at yield by soil type, you can look at yield by management zone if you've created management zones. And so all of that is trying to fine-tune using that yield data to drive management decisions. So what I'm going to talk about is understanding, not just cleaning your data, and step 2 is understanding the variation within the field. Why is this spot low yielding? Why is this spot high yielding? What are some additional data layers we need to help us understand that map? It might be soil texture, soil EC. It might be using multi-year yield analysis to look at is there a repeated pattern in the field, and then it might be taking a soil sample in this spot versus this spot to figure out what's going on to finish that picture. And then the other part I'm going to talk about is using historical images from here on campus that are archived. I've pulled aerial images that are back to the 1940s and 30s for my fields and some of our family's farms to look at, oh, that's why this is still showing up. This used to be an old cattle yard or a place 100 years ago. And if you're renting that farm the last 10 years, you don't have that family history to go with that. So I think it's really important to use historical imagery to maybe explain some things going on in yield maps that you don't get from other data layers. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how you can get that, how you can bring it in, and some things I've found through using it.
You can find an agenda for the Nebraska Crop Management Conference through a link on the Market Journal website. There is a registration fee associated with the event. Early registration discounts are available through January 15th. Additionally, you can find more information from Nathan on his website at croptechcafe.org.